Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Thomas, and here is one thing I learned so far in my stay on Earth. No matter how strong you think you are, no matter how focused or loyal or committed, you're never truly ready for the kind of pain that comes when the person you trusted most turns out to be lying to your face and cheating behind your back. The truth is, the one thing every man dreads deep down is finding out that while he's out there grinding, giving everything he's got to provide, his wife is at home doing things with another man. Things you'd never imagine she was capable of. That happened to me, and I still don't fully know how to explain what it did to me. There are no perfect words for it. It's like something inside you snaps, but no one else hears the sound. You walk around with a smile, but deep down you feel like a fool. This is a story of how my wife played me until I caught on. My wife, Ashley, was everything I ever wanted. Beautiful, smart, and full of life. We dated for a long while in a long-distance relationship before we got married. It felt like I had found my forever. We were married for over 10 years. A decade of ups and downs, but mostly good times. But I honestly thought we had it all. I worked my ass off to make sure she didn't want for anything. She had it all: love, comfort, security, everything. I made sure of it. I put everything into giving her the kind of life she deserved, both financially and emotionally. But then, everything came crashing down. As I reflect on everything now, I ask myself over and over, what did she want that I didn't give her? I gave her everything I could. I supported her, loved her, and made sure she was safe, comfortable, and happy. I still can't make sense of it. We didn't have it all figured out, but we were okay. Sometimes, what more could a person want? I was working so hard, so focused on providing for us, that I didn't realize what was going on right under my nose. I found out my wife was cheating from a casual comment made by a close friend. He said, man, I've been hearing some stuff about Ashley. My mind immediately concluded, this is just gossip. People talk, especially when they don't have anything better to do. I told him he was being ridiculous. There was no way Ashley would be cheating on me. She was my wife. We had built a life together. We had everything. No one could understand her the way I did, right? So I waved it off. I didn't want to believe it. So I told my friend, I'll check, but don't waste my time with this nonsense. Then, weeks later, something else happened that made me start questioning myself. I was talking to one of our neighbors one evening when he said, hey, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's this guy who's been coming over to your house pretty often when you're not around. I mean, you're working a lot, so I get it, but it seems a little strange, don't you think? He said it jokingly, but I couldn't ignore how serious it sounded. At first, I laughed it off. But it wasn't just one person now. This was the second person in a matter of weeks who had pointed out something about Ashley. They weren't saying the same thing, but they were noticing something similar. They were both bringing up a man I didn't know. I started looking at things differently. I'd been working long hours, spending more time at the office than I'd like to admit, and whenever I was home, I was exhausted. Now I was thinking, maybe Ashley, with all the time she had at home working from our place, was taking advantage of my absence. Is she doing things that I would never expect? While I provide for us, the thought of someone else being close to her felt like betrayal. I decided to take a break from work as a surprise for her. So I figured, why not? I'd observe Ashley myself, see if I could catch her slipping. The first few days, I watched her closely, trying to see if there was anything out of the ordinary in her behavior. But here's the thing, nothing stood out. She was calm and going about her day as if everything was normal. If she was cheating, she was doing a damn good job at hiding it. I watched her work from home, chatted with her at lunch like we always did, and saw nothing that screamed cheater. She was still the woman I married, and part of me wanted to believe that maybe this whole thing was just some twisted misunderstanding. But this couldn't be a coincidence. I was out of my depth. I wasn't trained for this. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I needed actual evidence. So, I made a decision. If I was going to find the truth, I couldn't do it alone. I swallowed my pride and called in a private investigator. This wasn't some cheap move. I needed someone who could get to the bottom of this, without me having to risk my own sanity. I wasn't playing games anymore. If something was going on, I needed to know, and I needed the truth laid out in front of me, no matter how painful it was going to be. The investigator said he'd take his time and be thorough. That was fine with me. I wasn't in a rush. I'd been living with the uncertainty for who knows how long, so a few more days or weeks wouldn't change anything. I went back to work, putting in the hours while the investigator started doing his job. But as I sat there behind my desk, I couldn't shake the thoughts that kept flooding my mind. What if they were right? What if everything I thought I knew about my wife had been a lie? Over a month. That's how long I waited. Each day felt like a year as I went through the motions of work. So, after what seemed like forever, I finally got the call from the private investigator. He said he was okay with sharing the information he had. When I met him to get the results, I wasn't prepared for how it would hit me. The investigator didn't waste time. He pulled out his phone and started showing me the photos and videos. There she was, my wife, Ashley, with another man. And it wasn't just a couple of blurry snapshots from a distance. No, these were clear photos. I stared at the man next to her in those photos. My stomach churned as I realized, for the first time, I was looking at the face of the man who had been making love with my wife. The man who has been breaking her back when I break mine for her. The investigator had followed Ashley's every move for weeks, tracking her from one place to the next. He'd figured it all out. And now, there it was, proof of her affair. I can't even describe how I feel. I mean, I had my suspicions, sure, but seeing the confirmation in front of me like this came with a different type of pain. What hurt the most wasn't just seeing her with him. It was how normal she had been acting around me. I mean, she was home when I come back, making dinner, talking about her day. She kissed me goodnight. I'd look at her and think everything was fine. I never suspected a thing. And that's the part one still can't wrap my head around. How could she act so normal? It made me question everything. The love we shared, the conversations we had, the life we built. Was it all a lie? Was I just blind to the truth for all these years? I didn't know what to do next. Part of me wanted to confront her right away, but another part of me, the part that was still holding on to the years we'd spent together, didn't want to lose it all in a single moment of rage. I felt paralyzed by my own emotions. At that moment, I couldn't figure out what was stronger, my love for her or my pride. My love for the woman I thought I knew, or the humiliation of seeing her betray me like this. It was like my mind was fighting with itself, torn between wanting to scream at her and wanting to hold on to something that was already slipping away. I didn't know if I was even capable of ending the marriage. How could I just walk away from everything? From the woman I thought was my partner, my best friend? But then again, how could I stay? How could I forgive her after seeing what she'd done? I spent days just sitting with the evidence, going over it again and again, trying to figure out what I was supposed to do with it. After reflecting on this revelation for more days, I called the investigator and asked him to dig deeper into Ashley's lover. I needed to know who this guy was. I had to understand what I was up against. The investigator took a few days to follow up, but when he finally called me, it was worse than I expected. The man's name was Michael, and he was married with a kid. His wife's name was Dorothy. She had no idea about Ashley, of course, but I was about to change that. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Thomas, why are you getting involved in someone else's marriage? This isn't your business. And yeah, that thought crossed my mind too. I mean, I was already dealing with my own mess. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't just sit back and do nothing. So, against my better judgment and my desire to stay out of things that weren't directly my problem, I decided to reach out to her. I didn't have to do it, but I felt like I had no other option. I arranged to meet Dorothy in a quiet park, a neutral place where we could talk. Part of me wasn't sure if I should even be doing this. But the moment she walked in, I could see a weariness in her eyes that seemed to reflect a deeper pain than I had expected. When I showed her the evidence, photos, videos, everything I had, she wasn't shocked that Michael had been cheating. She already knew that part, which shocked me. Dorothy had visible bruises on her arms, and I couldn't help but notice how recent they looked. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I pressed her a little bit to open up. She broke down in front of me, and for a moment I was speechless. But she didn't hold back. She told me everything about Michael's abuse. He wasn't just a cheater. He was a manipulator, a violent one at that. He had threatened her life more times than she could count. He told her that if she ever tried to leave him, he would kill her. She was living in constant fear of this man. And the worst part? She didn't have anyone to turn to. Everyone, including me, just thought she was another victim of infidelity. But she was carrying a whole other kind of weight, one that I couldn't have imagined. Her story touched me. It wasn't enough that her husband was having an affair. I urged her to document everything, to start keeping a record of his threats, his actions, and his abuse. She needed something to protect herself with if she ever decided to escape him. I made it clear that I was there to support her and that she wasn't alone in this. We were both victims in our own ways, but at least now we had the truth on our side. As we sat there, quietly sharing the burden of our pain, it felt like we were two broken souls trying to make sense of the mess we had been handed. We didn't know what the future held, but at that moment we had an unspoken understanding. We were in this together. To be honest, deciding to end my marriage wasn't easy. It's not something you just wake up one morning and feel good about. Even after seeing all the evidence, even after knowing for sure that Ashley had betrayed me, I still wrestled with myself. It's crazy how your mind tries to protect you by clinging to the good, even when the truth is staring you in the face. But eventually, I realized that staying would mean living in quiet pain. I wasn't going to do that to myself. So I filed for divorce. I made sure everything was official, quiet, and handled properly. I didn't tell her beforehand. I just had her served. The papers were delivered to her at home. I figured if she could cheat behind my back so comfortably, then she could handle being served without me giving her a heads up. That day she got the papers, she completely lost it. She came straight to me, looking confused. She asked, "What is this supposed to mean? Are you serious right now?" I didn't argue. I just opened my phone and pulled up the photos the private investigator gave me. Picture after picture. Her and her lover together in different spots. She stood there frozen. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. I could see her trying to come up with some kind of excuse or lie, but there was nothing she could say. Then she broke down and started sobbing. I didn't say a word. I turned around and walked away. That was the moment it all ended for me. So, while I was dealing with my own storm, Dorothy was fighting her own silent battle. She needed help. So, I offered whatever I could. I told her to start gathering everything. Old photos of injuries, text messages, even her medical records. Anything that could prove what he'd done to her. And she did. She started collecting everything, even police reports from years back, where she had called but never followed through. With all that evidence, and with my full support, she finally filed for divorce. I helped cover her legal fees because I knew she didn't have the money for it. And I couldn't stand the thought of her staying one more day under that man's thumb just because she couldn't afford to leave. At the same time, she applied for a restraining order. The court took one look at the stack of evidence she had and granted it immediately. That meant he couldn't come near her or the child. Soon after, the final blow came. She pressed charges for domestic abuse. And this time, with all the proof she had, there was no escaping it. He was arrested. After months of back and forth, legal meetings, paperwork, and all the emotional toll that came with it, my divorce was finally finalized. It should have felt like a celebration, but honestly, I was just tired. In the middle of that storm, the one person who genuinely stood by me was Dorothy, my ex-wife's lover's wife. When we first met, it was just to show her the evidence. I thought I was doing her a favor, giving her the truth so she wouldn't be in the dark like I had been. But over time, things shifted. We started talking more. She'd check on me. I'd check on her. At first, it was just about our situation, sharing updates or venting about how messed up everything was. But then, somehow, it turned into real conversations. Dorothy had her own wounds. I could see it in her eyes. We were two people who knew what it meant to love someone and get nothing but lies in return. We didn't have to explain our pain to each other. We already understood it. We started spending time together. There was something peaceful about being around someone who knew the kind of pain you were carrying without needing an explanation. Then, one evening, we were sitting in her living room. A soft movie was playing in the background, but neither of us was really watching it. We made love. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt wanted. It was intense, but not in the way you might think. And it was nothing like anything I ever had with Ashley. That night reminded me that even after everything, healing is possible, even if it doesn't come in the form or timing you expect. You know, I've had people ask me what's next for me and Dorothy. The truth is, I don't know. We're both trying to heal from different kinds of wounds, and we're taking it one step at a time. There's no rush, no pressure, and definitely no promises being thrown around. I like it that way because for once in a long time, things feel real. And honestly, even if Dorothy and I never become anything more than friends, that's okay. What matters to me is that I know I'm never going back to Ashley. That door is closed, locked, and bricked up for good. Looking back, I've learned a few hard lessons. Betrayal doesn't always shout. You don't always notice the cracks in your home until the whole thing comes crashing down around you. Now I want to ask you, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have handled things differently? Do you think people like Ashley and the man she cheated with ever truly regret what they did? Or do they just move on like nothing happened? Let me know in the comments. I read everything you guys write, and your thoughts always give me something to think about. Thanks for watching, for listening, for sharing, and for reflecting with me. I appreciate you all.